hold you back. Do I want to say that? And it could be a cancer that could grow.
But maybe, okay, just the other side of this, you have people like Joe Rogan coming out yesterday and saying very clearly, like, one, this is going to only help Jimmy Kimmel, but also he said in his very Joe Rogan way, like, this is absolutely insane that a president would even take time to go tweeting at a comedian, and it's completely un-American to be going after someone that you don't like to hear what they have to say.
I think we have a little bit of sound of Joe Rogan if we want to hear that.
First of all, I definitely don't think that the government should be involved ever in dictating what a comedian can or cannot say in a monologue. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Now, if the problem is the companies, if they're being pressured by the government, so if that's real, and if people on the right are like, yeah, go get them, oh my God, you're crazy. You're crazy for supporting this, because this will be used on you.
Think of who Joe Rogan is, who Joe Rogan speaks to, and how many people listen to him.
I'm glad he did it, and I hope those on the right, because I'm not left-right.
Exactly. No, you're not.
I'm not. That's not what I'm here for. What I'm here for is, he mentioned the companies, and I'm glad he did, right? ABC made a mess of this because they listened to the loudest voice in the room instead of the right voice. And that's where we are now, right? Why did one group of citizens have a right, people who don't like Kimmel, to decide what 2 million other citizens like and watch? Aren't I living in America? Isn't that what Trump ran on, right? Cancel the cancel culture. Well, now they're it. And so what ends up happening is we're in this place where ABC has everybody mad at them. How? Like, what? That's like your only assignment for Thanksgiving is to bring dessert. And what do? You bring a Jell-O mold and fruitcake. Everybody's mad at you. Everybody. Now, this crew will eat anything, I know.
Oh, you clearly worked at television. Exactly.
They were hoping you brought some of that.
Could you put the hoagie away? We're doing a show.
Paul, it's great to see you. Listen, thank you very much for this. I got to say, I'm very curious to see what comedians do now. There is the possibility that the president has opened up Pandora's box here, and that you're asking comedians to push the edge and push the envelope.
Well, I also hope that comedians don't just go crazy for the sake of going crazy like 12-year-olds either. You know what I mean? Like, if you're saying something that's point of view and matters, then say it. But don't just say, let's see how many buttons I can push. Or try to get people to be so provocative so that they get bigger hits on social media by saying crazy things.
No one does that.
No, not at all.
No one in comedy or TV news.
I got to go juggle chainsaws for TikTok.
Exactly. Last night, brother.
Come on.
All right.
That was just like,
why is that guy wearing a Yankee jacket?
That was like working the rev here anyway.
You know, you tried to work the room. It did not work.
Loudest voice in the room, right here. Okay, let's turn to, thank you, Paul. Let's turn to this right now. In just hours, Ukrainian President Zelensky is set to make a pivotal address to the United Nations General Assembly. He'll do so with some unexpected new support, you could say, from President Trump, the president making an extraordinary 180 when it comes to Russia and Ukraine, now saying that he thinks Ukraine can win back all of the land Russia seized. The president saying this: I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form, adding also that the war was making Russia look like a quote-unquote paper tiger. Zelensky spoke about President Trump's newfound support and optimism last night on Fox.
Are you surprised to hear that?
I'm from the side that Trump and America will be with us to the end of the war. I think he understands for today that we can't just swap territories. It's not fair. It's not real.
So you think his position has changed?
Yes, I think so. And God bless.
Oh, and that paper tiger comment from President Trump clearly not sitting well with the Kremlin. This morning, pushing back on this, and here's the quote: Russia is not a tiger. After all, Russia is associated with a bear. There are no paper bears. Russia is a real bear. Joining me right now is Congressman Greg Meeks of New York. He's the top Democrat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. For some reason, I just can't get enough of that real bear quote, but I digress, Congressman. This is extraordinary, this 180 from President Trump on Russia and Ukraine, because, I mean, for months and months, he had said very clearly that the end result, no matter what, to end this war, Ukraine's going to have to deal with giving up some of the land that Russia's taken, and then he started talking about land swaps and that they're already being negotiated. Are you applauding the president with this move this morning?
Well, no. Look, it's to me a lot of empty words. The key thing, it seemed to me, he's throwing his hands up. He's saying that Ukraine can win with our European allies. He's not saying that the United States is going to stand with Ukraine. He's not saying that he's going to come to Congress and ask Congress for the appropriate appropriations so that we can give Ukraine what it needs and make sure that we're giving them the weapons that they need so that they can get their property back and push back Putin as they were doing when the United States was giving them what they needed, was giving them the armament, was training their people for themselves. So it wasn't just the European Union, it was the United States leadership that caused all of that to occur. And it still seems to me he's giving us empty words because he's said words and he seems to have changed, but when you look for action, or as they said when I was a kid, put your money where your mouth is, and that will show how serious you are about supporting Ukraine.
So that's quite interesting. You think that this is not a show of support of Ukraine. You think that from the president, this is him throwing his hands up in the air and trying to shirk responsibility on the outcome there?
Yeah, look, if in this scenario, if the president has said many things before, he's given deadlines and he's made it seem as though that he was moving from where he was. The way that we know that he's moving from where he was is if he comes to Congress and says, we now have to give Ukraine what it needs so that it can beat Russia. We got to put your money where your mouth is. When we previously giving Ukraine attackers so that they could go after the Russian ammunition that was striking Ukrainians. And we were leading. We wasn't falling behind the European nations. We were leading the European nations, bringing that coalition together, showing that we collectively through strength. But the words that I heard, I'm waiting to hear that the United States and what we're going to do and how we're going to lead. This is really important, I think. He did not say that. He said with the Europeans helps. What about with the United States? We're supposed to be leaders. We're supposed to be having the strength.
A little bit along the same vein, the president also suggested yesterday that he thinks that NATO members should start shooting down Russian aircraft if Russian aircraft enter their airspace. This is after several instances of incursions just in the past weeks. But he says he thinks that NATO members should shoot down those aircraft. Do you think they should?
You're going to shoot down the aircraft. I think that what it is that we're going to be together. And I think that as the NATO allies had a meeting yesterday about Article 4, we should be a part of those meetings. We should be talking and strategizing and collecting together with our NATO allies in that regards. We should be supporting and making sure that Russia knows that we are serious, that if they flew over territories of our NATO allies, that we will be together. That's the message that I think that is strong and serious about a policy. So we should be all a part of that. We are a part of NATO. And so I would hope, as NATO did after 9/11, they came together with Article 5 for the first time, that we are now sitting down. So it is NATO along with the United States. And it sounds to me too often that it is NATO one place and the United States now not as a strong partner, but watching NATO or pushing NATO to do something while the United States stay on the sideline.
Congressman, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate your time. John.
This morning, some of the facts about autism. President Trump made a claim about autism in Cuba.
There's a rumor, and I don't know if it's so or not, that Cuba, they don't have Tylenol because they don't have the money for Tylenol, and they have virtually no autism.
So rates there are lower, but it's not true that there are no cases, 0.36 cases every 10,000 people. Health professionals think that stems from a lack of resources they need to widely diagnose it. Let's get to CNN's Patrick Ottman in Havana. So there is autism in Cuba. What's the reality on the ground?
Oh, there is, and no one's denying that. That's not a claim the Cuban government's ever made here. As you said, the diagnosing of this, because it is something the Cuban government has been working on for only really about 7 years, putting the scarce resources they have into understanding autism, into diagnosing it. So the numbers are much lower, but that is not to say that there is no autism in Cuba. There are, by the government's admission, thousands of cases that they have diagnosed already, probably many more times than that. There are clinics across the island dedicated to autism, about 300 doctors at this point that work on treating Cubans with autism. So when this claim was made, two claims really, and we'll break that down, it really just baffled Cubans because people know children about autism in Cuba, and as well this claim that there's no Tylenol in Cuba. Cuba has produced its own kind of Tylenol going back years. There are shortages here of every kind of medicine imaginable, but this is a common pain reliever. People bring it from outside. I do every time I travel outside of Cuba. You can get Tylenol, either the kind that's produced here or just the regular American Tylenol that's brought in by people's families. So the idea that we're in some kind of bubble where there's no Tylenol and there's no autism is simply flat out false. And it sounds like an urban legend, but unfortunately in this case, it's an urban legend that U.S. public health policy is being determined around. But here in Cuba, doctors will say they just don't understand it because it's something that could be checked and debunked very, very quickly.
Patrick Ottman in Havana, thank you so much for the facts on this. States up 20% over last year, and maybe not done yet. A new survey of CFOs says tariffs are to blame. And then cats and coyotes side by side on an evening stroll, a sign of friendship or the pending apocalypse? You make the call.
As an architecture student at Ciudad de La Paz, I'm really proud and I'm grateful to be standing in a city with a lot of opportunities. It's a low density capital. There's a lot of green spaces from living and leisure. And the architecture of the city is designed to be in harmony with the natural environment. It gives me hope. We don't have to leave our homes to dream big.
Because you can be there for the big conversations. Experience high-speed Wi-Fi on board with Starlink. Free for all passengers on Qatar Airways.
Join me, Larry Madowo, as I introduce you to Africa's trendsetters. See how they use their talent, resources, and passion to make a difference on the continent. This is African Voices Changemakers.
Acclaimed author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie shares how she's redefining African storytelling on the global stage.
Do not think that somehow your story is not universal.
African Voices Changemakers on CNN in association with Glow. From the coasts of Africa to its untamed wilderness, Chris Fallows captures nature as it is, raw, real, and worth saving.
To see a site like this gives you such incredible hope.
Journey alongside a world-renowned photographer and artwork with an inspiring message.
That such incredible Edens still do exist, and we can still save them.
Call to Earth this weekend on CNN.
Stay informed, stay connected, stay invested. Join me for Connect the World with Becky Anderson.
Weekdays on CNN.
Atwood at the State Department, and this is CNN.
When you travel the world, make sure the world travels with you. Check in, log on, and get connected with all of the latest developments at your fingertips. CNN Partner Hotels. Connected to your world.
This whole island is littered with landmines.
A year ago when we were here in Pyongyang, you couldn't turn a corner without seeing anti-American propaganda.
Do you have faith that the United States would defend Taiwan?
I do have faith.
We are underneath a giant tent with thousands of people outside Delhi.
I've never been anywhere like this before.
An Israeli father of four drove directly into danger.
I'm Becky Anderson at the Louvre, Abu Dhabi. This is CNN.
Prices on the rise, and some of the country's top business executives say President Trump's tariffs are partly to blame for that. According to the CFO survey, inflation could have been about 1/3 lower this year if it was not because of the tariffs. Take coffee, for instance. Most of the coffee you drink is imported from Brazil. That country now faces than the same time a year ago. CNN's Matt Egan is here tracking all of this. Where are we getting hurt, I guess, is the issue.
Well, Sarah, look, the president likes to say that there's no inflation,
right,
and the tariffs are not driving up prices. But financial decision makers in corporate America, they say otherwise, right? This survey from Duke University and a pair of Fed banks finds that CFOs, they expect to increase prices this year by almost 4%. And what's notable is that they attribute about 1/3 of those price increases to, you guessed it, yes, tariffs. You can see that 3.9% increase is what they're expecting in prices. A lot of that is non-tariff driven, but also a lot of it is tariff driven. And look, 1/3, that's nothing to sneeze at. As you mentioned, that suggests that inflation could be about 1/3 lower without tariffs. Inflation, it's not through the roof like it was 3 years ago, but it's still uncomfortably warm. It's around 3%. You take 1/3 away, that gets you right to that 2% goal that the Fed considers healthy. And we know that a whole bunch of companies have said they've either increased prices because of tariffs or they plan to soon, right? Everyone from Target and Walmart to toy makers like Hasbro and Mattel, tool makers, Stanley Black & Decker, stroller maker UPPAbaby, shoemaker Nike. I could go on. They don't say that these price increases are just going to happen this year and be done with. In fact, they expect to raise prices again next year by about 4%. And next year, they blame about 1/4 of the expected price increases on tariffs. And that really undermines the argument that we often hear from the Trump administration that tariffs are just going to be a one-time price adjustment and then we kind of forget about it. And it makes sense that it's not going to be just a one-time thing because it's not like tariffs get...
Their prices keep going up.
Right. And it's not like the tariffs just got announced on January 20th and kicked in a month later, right? We have tariffs that get floated, they get formally announced, then they kick in, they get dialed up, dialed back, they're paused, resumed. It's all over the place. A Duke professor, John Graham, who runs this survey, he said this isn't a one-time thing. It's still going to be happening in 2026. This is going to be a long, drawn-out affair. So, Sarah, look, the bottom line, inflation, it's not runaway like it was a few years ago, but it is still too high. It's adding to the cost of living, and it's probably not going to be something that we're just dealing with this year.
I just want to clarify, you said that next year these CEOs are saying, hey, it's going to be 4%. Is that 4% more
Yeah, exactly.
than where we are? So that
Right.
would be a total of 8%?
Yeah. They're expecting a 4% increase this year, 4% increase next year, and they're assigning a big chunk of that to tariffs.
All right. Matt Egan, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Sarah.
it. Kate?
The Texas camp where 27 campers and counselors were killed in those devastating floods will reopen next year. That is the new word coming from Camp Mystic. Leaders of the girls' camp first sent an email to victims' families this week saying its procedures will follow, the way they wrote it is, requirements of the camp safety legislation you bravely championed. Then it sent a wider email to all families announcing the reopening. The camp also said that it will build a memorial for the victims. Parents of these victims have been pushing, as we've been covering, for Texas lawmakers to pass new safety bills to try to prevent this tragedy from ever happening again. A woman in Nevada, take a look at this video captured, it's like bizarro video of a house cat following a coyote around at night. While it may look innocent and kind of fun, what could they be discussing? Experts say that the cat's actions is probably actually it being quite territorial. They say this is a good reminder to keep your pets indoors to keep them safe at night. And this is one of those news stories that feels like it's more... Looking at the moment, a driver of a stolen car jumps a partially open bridge in Seattle. The car had gotten stuck in traffic, as one does, during a chase with police. Instead of giving up, the driver kept on going and went over that bridge. Eventually, the police did find the car, but they have not caught the driver. John?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, breaking this morning, a deadly typhoon bearing down on southern China after battering Hong Kong and forcing nearly 2 million people to evacuate this morning. Yeah, high waves from Typhoon Ragasa crashed right through hotel doors in Hong Kong. And in Taiwan, the storm has killed at least 17 people, and more than a dozen are still missing this morning. CNN international correspondent Hanako Montgomery is in Hong Kong. You had a hell of a night and morning, Hanako. I've seen pictures of you just getting soaked in this storm.
Yeah, John, it was a very wet and windy night for us. And right now I'm standing in one of the worst hit areas in Hong Kong, in Chung Kwan O. And I just want to show you the extent of damage that we have been seeing. We're standing outside a collection of restaurants that is facing the sea right there. And if you take a look just here, some of the front doors of these restaurants have completely just been mixed in with this debris, and furniture just completely strewn about. It's a collection of debris at this point. Now, we've spoken to some of the local business owners here, and they've told us that when the typhoon was at its peak, when it was at its worst, it was causing massive sea surges, and just these huge waves were coming over that concrete sea wall. You can kind of see in the distance right over there. And these waves were just inundating these restaurants, inundating these establishments. And one of the owners that we spoke to said that it almost looked like a tsunami had hit Hong Kong, because these waves were just so massive, and they were forcing all of this furniture, all of this debris to collect over here. Now, this business owner that we were speaking to said that he was really concerned about his staffers, and said that it would take him likely a few weeks to get back on his feet.
Across the group, we're pretty upset. We'll get through it. We've had damage before in other venues, and we've got them together and make sure that we get up and running as fast as possible. But, everyone's devastated. It's hard to come with when you see something that you build getting destroyed overnight pretty quickly.
And John, as you said, the typhoon has moved on from Hong Kong. It's also moved on from Macau. It is making landfall in China right now, but the Hong Kong city government has advised people to continue staying in, to continue to hunker down, because clearly the weather has not cleared up yet. It's still pretty adverse. Winds are fairly powerful, and we are experiencing some rain that could potentially lead to flooding and landslides. John.
Going to be a heck of a cleanup there. Hanako Montgomery, great to see you this morning. Thank you very much. Brand new hour of CNN News Central starts right now.
Jimmy Kimmel is back, and the president is posting a new threat. The late-night host, close to tears while addressing the controversy that almost got his show canceled, why he says this whole thing exposed something far, far bigger than any joke. Plus Tylenol and autism. Many more questions. Dr. Sanjay Gupta is here to answer some of them. And a massive sinkhole opening up and swallowing up a road near a hospital. What caused this collapse? I'm Kate Baldwin with John Berman and Sarah Seidner. This is CNN News Central.
right, breaking overnight, Jimmy Kimmel is back on ABC. President Trump back to threatening ABC. After nearly a week-long suspension, Kimmel delivered a monologue filled with emotion and the defense of free speech.
I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it. I still do. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever. And also, selfishly,
Kimmel slammed what he called the president's un-American attempts to silence free speech, and he criticized FCC Chair Brendan Carr, comparing him to a mob boss and calling his actions a direct violation of the First Amendment. CNN media correspondent Hadas Gold is with us now. This was a TV event, I have to say.
But definitely TV event. Kimmel was defiant, but also emotional. Emotional not just about what this saga means for the country and for free speech, but I was really struck by his emotion over Charlie Kirk, over his murder, and over the message that he had for Charlie Kirk's wife, her message of forgiveness. And I don't think most people connect Jimmy Kimmel with being Christian, but he specifically talked about Christianity and the values of Jesus and forgiveness, talking about Erica Kirk. So I did think that that was very notable in this entire very notable moment. But if people thought Jimmy Kimmel was going to come back after these few days off and somehow tone down his attacks on this Trump administration, they were obviously very mistaken, because he came back quite strongly. Take a listen to some of what he had to say.
the President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke. He was somehow able to squeeze Colbert out of CBS. Then he turned his sights on me, and now he's openly rooting for NBC to fire Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and the hundreds of Americans who work. Or if there's even any hint of that happening, you will be 10 times as loud as you were this week.
And he's talking there not just about the outrage, from politicians, but also the number of people who were canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions. And this timing was terrible for ABC and Disney, because this came, of course, the same week that Disney was raising its prices. So if you're already unhappy with Jimmy Kimmel being potentially pulled off air, then you were then going to be even more unhappy with the fact that they were raising your prices at the same time. I also thought it was very notable that Jimmy Kimmel specifically spoke out and thanked the people who were supporting him who don't like him. And he specifically listed out their names, going one by one down the list of all these people. From Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens to Ted Cruz, who he has often, fought with and made a lot of fun of. But Ted Cruz came out specifically and said that Brendan Carr, the FCC chair, sounds like a mob boss. And then, of course, Jimmy Kimmel brought on Robert De Niro, to make fun of Brendan Carr. Now, I think the most important quote from everything that Jimmy Kimmel said was this. He said, "This show is not important. What's important is that we live in a country that allows us to have a show like this." But President Trump, of course, he did speak out, and he sounds like he doesn't want this show or shows like it to continue. He posted on Truth Social just before Jimmy Kimmel's show was about to air, saying, "I can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. The White House was told by ABC legal campaign contribution, and they're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do." And he noted that last time they went after them, they gave them $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative. We've asked ABC about what he's talking about when he's saying that ABC told them they were canceled. They have made no comment, because ABC and Disney never said that Jimmy Kimmel was canceled. They said they were just going to be pulled off the air indefinitely. But big questions, of course, what do the affiliates do? At least almost a quarter of the country couldn't watch Jimmy Kimmel last night. His show was still preempted. What are the ratings going to look like for Jimmy Kimmel? I expect them to be very big. What is Brendan Carr going to do next? What is Jimmy Kimmel also going to do? His contract is up in May of 2026, and I imagine that this whole event will play into those calculations for himself.
I think a lot of people have seen this monologue a lot. We'll get a sense of that in just about 10 seconds. Hadas Gold, thank you very much. With that, Sarah.
All right, thank you to you both. Thank you, John. The numbers, by the way, are huge. So far, viewer numbers, that is for Jimmy Kimmel, who returned to his show after being suspended for 6 days, as you just heard there. During his monologue, Kimmel himself jokingly thanked President Trump for giving him a ratings boost. CNN's Harry Enton is here to run the numbers for us. Like, at this point, I don't think we have the ratings for TV numbers.
No.
But you've been looking online, and
views, Jimmy Kimmel Live video views. The 6-month median, the median video only gets 240,000. Look how many views Tuesday night's monologue already has. 6.7 million. That's over 25 times as large as the median Jimmy Kimmel video normally gets. And I was looking, it is by far the largest video in at least 6 months. So if Donald Trump's idea was to give Jimmy Kimmel more press and more viewership, he absolutely did so. Of course, I don't think that is what Donald Trump intended to do.
do you have any sense beyond YouTube of just how big his appeal may have been? Like, a lot of people wanted to clearly watch this from all facets of, not just in America, but this is from around the world.
That's exactly right. So we got this 6.7 million. I will note that number is up already about 700,000 from the last time I checked, which was about an hour ago. But take a look here. Record high Google searches last night for what time is Jimmy Kimmel on? You wouldn't have to check what time Jimmy Kimmel was on if you were a regular viewer. The reason that people were checking what time Jimmy Kimmel was on, because he was potentially pulling in a lot of viewers who normally didn't watch. And get this, it was up all the way back since 2004, basically since Jimmy Kimmel was first on the air. So no, it was not just on YouTube. There was a ton of interest, what we're talking about nationwide, worldwide, in terms of what time was Jimmy Kimmel on, because I don't normally watch him, but maybe I want to take a gander because maybe I'm interested to hear what he has to say.
But Jimmy Kimmel himself sort of said, look, when Disney did this, I went to them, I didn't like it, but he also said thank you to Disney for keeping his show on. Is there any indication that Disney has something to be happy for? He even plugged, go to Disney Plus, here's how to, as a joke, but here's how to re-up your subscription.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of people, especially on the left, who were upset at Disney for suspending Jimmy Kimmel, and we saw Google searches last week for boycotting Disney and canceling Disney Plus go way up. But take a look here. Google searches versus last week's peak. Boycotting Disney, down about 75% as of last night. How about cancel Disney Plus? Down about 75% from its peak. So the bottom line is this was great for Jimmy Kimmel in terms of what we see so far on YouTube. It's probably going to translate to the ratings. And also Jimmy Kimmel's return is good for Disney because all of a sudden people aren't so interested in boycotting them or canceling their Disney Plus subscription. So it ends up being pretty decent for Disney's bottom line, bringing Jimmy Kimmel back to the stage.
We'll see how it goes throughout the many weeks that he is on. Harry Enton, it is always a pleasure to be here with you.
The pleasure was all mine. Huge.
That's what you say now.
Yeah.
Right?
Here is a quote for you. Turn off the TV and do your job. Meeting over a path to avoid yet another government shutdown. An update on that is ahead. And FEMA workers are under investigation now after warning the public a Katrina-level disaster could happen again. And crews rushed to save an elderly woman trapped inside a burning home. We have the details and an update on how she is doing this morning.
Abu Dhabi for me is a city that keeps offering while you go in there and try to discover more. It's a city that's beyond expectations. Abu Dhabi Streets is not just an Instagram account, it's a way to express ourselves. It's a way of us to transmitting the love we have for Abu Dhabi. We like architecture. I myself have a master's in design, so I'm drawn towards buildings, towards new and old architecture. It's so beautiful, and really to discover that, you need to look left, right, really walk in the city, and you will find some element of playfulness. Suddenly you walk the street and now you have a sculpture, you have a carpet like in the carpet souk, and your feel about the city changes.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Happiness could lead to living longer. You want to know how? On my podcast, Chasing Life, I'm uncovering the secrets of people around the world who are living happy, healthy, extraordinary lives. Hear how they do it and the science behind why it works. Join me as I reveal their secrets and discover how we can chase life together. Listen to Chasing Life with me, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, wherever you get your podcasts.
The biggest trends, the latest business ventures, and the boldest investments pushing the continent forward.
We're all required to build a better Africa.
Who will see profits? What opportunities will come? Where will growth take shape?
We've positioned ourselves within the community that we want to empower.
And how will it all impact the global economy?
We want to provide people with opportunities for them to be their best, to build meaningful careers.
Join me, Zain Asher, on Marketplace Africa.
This weekend on CNN.
The people here are being largely ignored by the world. We've now witnessed for ourselves that children are working here, that they are involved with the production of cobalt. More mortar strikes very, very close. They want us to start moving. You're a priest, you're a man of God. These children are accusing you of abusing them, and you have nothing to say for yourself? Every day they tell her to go back, and every day she has to do this extraordinarily long loop across the border. I've been informed by sources of threats against me. That's what happens here. When you look too closely at Russia's business dealings, you get a sense of the degree of the Israeli bombardment. What about that? We're CNN, journalists.
Today, we live in an unpredictable environment, and news races around the world at breakneck speed. Demi Moore, Kate Winslet, Chancellor Merkel, welcome to the program.
I think that societies that suppress their women are the least successful economically.
My show brings you the latest news and top news makers. Do you feel the Trump administration understands what's at stake?
I'll be honest, we have to work on it.
What do you want people to know about mortality? And we also dive below the headlines.
These scenes have been the most emotional scenes for Syria.
What do you want the impact of this particular film to be?
It's corny to say, but it's about love. It's the only thing worth dying for, only thing worth living for.
It's crucial we make sense of what's happening and fully understand what's at stake. Does Europe have an against Russia?
Amanpour, weekdays on CNN.
Caitlin Collins is your DC source, bringing you unprecedented access to the White House.
We're live from the center of the political universe,
Capitol Hill.
My Democratic source tonight is Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. If you don't get what you need from Congress, can you achieve what you're trying to achieve?
And beyond.
We're live on the ground in Israel tonight about the Gazans leaving. Where exactly are you suggesting that they should go?
Follow Caitlin for in-depth political coverage and analysis. And watch her on The Source, Tuesday through Saturday on CNN.
So Congress is out this week. The federal government now has just 1 week also before it begins shutting down if new funding isn't agreed to. The deadline is October 1st. Ahead of that, top Democrats in Congress had scheduled a meeting with President Trump, a meeting which he then canceled, saying that what they were asking for to keep this thing going was unserious and ridiculous, thus sparking a new round of fears that the government is going to start shutting down as a result of, let's be honest yet again, Congress and the White House being incapable of doing their jobs. CNN's Arlette Saenz is tracking this one. Back with us now. Arlette, what is next? Where are we?
Well, okay, lawmakers are operating under a very short timeline as a potential government shutdown is just 1 week away. Democrats and Republicans right now party if they cannot pass government funding by the end of Tuesday night. There was a glimmer of hope that there could be negotiations underway when President Trump and the Democratic leaders, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, were set to meet tomorrow, but then Trump canceled that meeting, writing on Truth Social, quote, "After reviewing the details of the unserious and ridiculous demands made by the minority radical left Democrats in return for their votes to keep our thriving country open, I have decided that no meeting with their congressional leaders could possibly be productive. A source telling CNN that that cancellation came after President Trump had spoken with GOP leaders who had really discouraged him from entering into negotiations with Democrats. Meanwhile, Schumer's and Jeffries this morning, in a new statement, called Trump's cancellation an unhinged temper tantrum. Here's more of what they had to say.
The statement that Donald Trump issued today was unhinged, and it related to issues that have nothing to do with the spending bill that is before the Congress and the need to try to avoid a government shutdown. Nothing to do.
We know Donald Trump watches a lot of television. Mr. President, if you're watching television, shut it off and come sit down and negotiate with us.
Now, Senate Democrats last week rejected a bill that had passed the House, a Republican-led proposal that would have kept the government open until November 21st. It included an additional $30 million in security for lawmakers, as well as more security for the executive and judicial branches, and a fix to D.C. funding. Want to see changes made to the Medicaid cuts that we're seeing in President Trump's domestic policy agenda bill that passed this summer. And they also want there to be an extension of Obamacare subsidies that are set to expire at the end of the year. But right now, there really appears to be no end in sight for this resolution. Lawmakers are out this week. The Senate returns on Monday. Jeffries has told his caucus to be prepared to come back to Washington on Monday, but House Speaker Mike Johnson has said he's not bringing back lawmakers until after October 1st, past that deadline for the shutdown. So as each day passes, the odds for a shutdown are really increasing as these lawmakers have shown no easy resolution that they could agree to avert a shutdown at this time.
Arlette Saenz, thank you so much. Sarah.
All right, ahead, the Federal Reserve Chair responding, going after Donald Trump because of his criticism of the Fed, calling it a cheap shot. More on that story coming up. Plus, Dr. Sanjay Gupta here to answer all of your questions, and I know y'all have a lot of them, about acetaminophen, otherwise known as the active ingredient in Tylenol, and autism. Important conversation ahead.
Because game time is family time. Experience high-speed Wi-Fi on board with Starlink. Free for all passengers on Qatar Airways.
I'm headed to Angola, a journey of fascination.
This is the best place to get in peace with your mind.
The last places to really get off the grid.
I come here to clean my soul.
And get back to why we leave home in the first place.
Cheers. I love climate in Angola. Beautiful scenery. It's incredible.
But I'm ready for new challenges this trip. I find this very beautiful, but also slightly terrifying.
Yeah, don't worry.
First time for everything. I'll be doing my best to keep up. Join us for next big trip, Angola.
Join me, Larry Madowo, as I introduce you to Africa's trendsetters. See how they use their talent, resources, and passion to make a difference on the continent. This is African Voices Changemakers.
Acclaimed author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie shares how she's redefining African storytelling on the global stage.
Do not think that somehow your story is not universal.
African Voices Changemakers on CNN in association with Glow.
On Laura Coates Live, we cover it all, from legal battles.
At least one juror has now been excused.
Political showdowns.
How much you think that weighs on the president?
And the conversations in between.
Wayne from Washington. Wayne, what's your question? Will you take this all the way to the Supreme Court?
I'm not refuting a syllable of what you said.
What do you say to people who are looking to find their voice?
All the news, all on Laura Coates Live, Tuesday through Saturday on CNN.
Odyssey, the electronic game of the future.
This is CNN.
Gaza City is just this way, and as you can hear behind me, there's a lot of ongoing fighting between Israeli forces and Hamas militants. This is the way that we go in to what they say is an extensive tunnel system in Bani Suhaila. One Palestinian man was shot in the leg. We saw him being taken out by ambulance. But now we're seeing more and more Israelis coming out to protest against the current government. And that sound you hear behind me are hundreds of Israelis who are welcoming those 4 female Israeli soldiers just freed from Hamas captivity. They were at home that fateful Saturday morning when Hamas terrorists burned their house to the ground.
I feel responsible to tell their story because I believe the world's forgotten.
At what point is it time to end this war?
I'm Cecilia Dominguez in Buenos Aires, and this is CNN.
All right, this morning, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell pushing back on accusations that central bank plays politics. Let's get right to Matt Egan for the latest on this. Welcome back.
Yeah, John, look, this is some of the strongest language yet from the Fed chair, really defending himself and the institution of the Federal Reserve against just these relentless attacks, right? I mean, the president all year has been accusing the Fed of playing politics, of just keeping interest rates too high, even though, of course, the president himself is the one who nominated Jerome Powell back in 2017. But Powell stresses they don't play politics. Take a listen.
Whenever we make decisions, we're never, ever thinking about political things. And so we're based in Washington, D.C., and many people, in Congress and they're often things are seen through a lens of, is it good for this party or bad for this party or this politician? We're just not looking at things that way. We're looking at what's the best thing for the people that we serve in the medium term. What's the best policy? The truth is, mostly people who are calling us political, it's just a cheap shot.
So there you heard him say just a cheap shot. Look, that's not to say that the Fed can't be criticized. Of course it can, right? Even Powell himself has conceded they were late to fighting inflation after COVID. But today they face this. And that's something that normally would call for pretty aggressive interest rate cuts. On the other hand, they have stubbornly high inflation. Take a look at this. This just talks about how the fingerprints of tariffs are really all over price increases. Moody's Analytics found that if you look at tariff-sensitive consumer prices, they're going up at over 5% on an annualized basis. That's more than twice the pace of overall inflation, and it is up dramatically from the tiny increase at the same point last year. And this is something that Powell talked about yesterday. He's talked about how they really need to still be watching out for inflation, that's still a risk. And anyone who's been to the grocery store has seen prices go up significantly, right? Coffee prices up by 4% just between July and August. That is the most in 14 years, and it's coming at a time when the U.S. has massive tariffs on Brazil, the leading source of coffee that's drank in the United States. Tomato prices up by 5% as well. That's the most since COVID. Again, that does look like it's linked to tariffs as well. Car repair, jewelry, those are record monthly increases. And again, those look like they're linked to tariffs. So look, the bottom line is the Fed faces this really challenging situation. It's not going to be easy to get this right.
And they say, whatever we decide, it's not politics.
That's what they say. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Kate?
Ahead, parents are left with many questions. questions today about autism and Tylenol. Sanjay Gupta is here with some answers for you. And a massive sinkhole swallows the car. There's a road. Rescue workers even had to dodge a mudslide inside the sinkhole. More on this coming up.
If you could travel to the future right now, would you? A place where missions to other planets are no longer mere fantasy, where you can watch autonomous cars race skillfully around the Formula One track. A place where artificial intelligence is developed sensibly, with human flourishing in mind. Abu Dhabi is making a commitment to the good future so that people and businesses can pursue their potential. This is Tomorrow in Motion.
I'm headed to Angola, a journey of fascination.
This is the best place to get in peace with your mind.
One of the last places to really get off the grid.
I come here to clean
my soul and get back to why we leave home in the first place.
Here, I love climbing in Angola. Beautiful scenery, it's incredible.
But I'm ready for new challenges this trip. I find this very beautiful, but also slightly terrifying.
Yeah, don't worry.
First time for everything. I'll be doing my best.
Years ago. Let's not waste any time. We can cross live to Beth Page in Farmingdale, New York, from where we're joined by my CNN Sport colleague, Don Riddell. Great to see Farmingdale, New York, from where we're joined by my CNN Sport colleague, Don Riddell. Great to see you, Don. I know it's early, but how are excitement levels doing?
Oh, great. I'm very excited, Amanda. I've said this many, many times. I think that right